Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is your host and your coach, Mary Ayers. Well, this is part one of setting boundaries and why is it so stinking hard for us to do. And when I first started this series, when I thought about it as an idea, I thought, man, this is going to be great. I'm going to give people a handful of ideas and suggestions and just some bullet points, and boy, they're going to be able to sail off and start setting boundaries in a way that really serves them. But the more I started reading, the more I started doing my research, the more I started gathering my thoughts around this, I realized this isn't going to be simple. And there's a reason that it's not simple. There's so much that gets in our way, and there are so many parts of the skill of setting boundaries that we never were taught. And so while it is something that all psychologists and therapists and coaches may always recommend, is you need to have good personal boundaries. You need to set some boundaries. I taught parenting for absolutely years, and it was so natural to say, parents need to have boundaries, but it never dawned on me, even after all those years, that people may not know what that means, that they may not have had an experience with setting boundaries. Nobody instructed them on how to set boundaries because they probably didn't know themselves. They knew it was a good idea. They may even have thought that they were doing it. Maybe they were, but they didn't know how to model it, how to set it. And even as a parent myself, the more I started researching this, I thought to myself, I bet there were times that I came up short in this area. So in a way, I had to do some tapping for myself around my own feeling bad that I may not have prepared my children as well as I could have, not cut myself any slack, but I'm sure I taught them some things, but I didn't take it as a lesson. We teach our children how to tie their shoes. We teach them how to clean their room. We teach them so many things, table manners, maybe some religious practice or whatever it is. We teach them so many things, and yet I realize some of the basic things like setting boundaries is not something necessarily we've told them is something that a skill they need to learn and then help them do that. So this series, I'm going to just kind of keep massaging this series. I'm just going to keep adding another part whenever I'm ready to around some other aspect of it. Sometimes it might have to do with our discomfort, or what does it mean to set boundaries, or what happens when we're from a dysfunctional family and we're over-enmeshed and we're people pleasers and we're afraid of people getting angry of us if we do stand up for ourselves. All of these things that get in the way and make it difficult to do this thing that we are told is helpful for us to do. We're going to just take our time and go through this and really start to explore what it means to set boundaries. And by the way, I want to put you at ease right away because I'm going to respect your boundary and I'm going to set my own too, which is I want you to know that this will not be one of those kind of courses that says to you, you need to do it. I'm not going to wag a finger in your face and tell you, you need to do this, because there's a difference between what we logically know we need to do and emotionally what we feel we can do. And that's not only a bridge we want to gap intellectually, but having the tapping as our tool to help us to be able to do that. I've been a therapist for over 26 years, and I know the difference between talking to people and helping them understand, getting a cognitive understanding, and yet knowing that what gets in our way is our physical body is saying, nope, not going to do that, refuse to do that, wouldn't feel good to do that, doesn't feel safe to do that. And while we may understand that there's something getting in our way of doing it, up till when I added tapping to it, I never knew how to bridge that gap. And the difference tapping has made is it helps to bridge the gap. We go right towards that feeling and sensation in our body. We tap around that, and it leaves space. It gives us an openness, a place to be able to try on new cognitive ideas, new learning, new ways of seeing the world, new behaviors, ideas. We get to now put them into action, to try them on, find out what we like, what fits for us, what doesn't fit. It gives us permission to be a beginner, to try things out, knowing that we don't have to be perfect in it, knowing that we get another chance at it, knowing that we don't have to walk into it with confidence, but that confidence is something that we build up as we give time to it. but we have to allow ourselves to even get to the learning place. And so tapping opens up this space that allows us to become learners. And I love being a learner. So what is it exactly is this boundary when it comes to relationship? What are we saying when we talk about boundaries? Well, simply put, a boundary is a limit or space between you and another person. It's a clear space where you begin and the other person ends. Now, I am just really quoting here off of a definition I read because it really feels like we get that. We understand that yards have boundaries. We put fences around and we say, this is my neighbor's yard, this is my yard. And it gives us the opportunity to have a relationship or not have a relationship based on how we want to define our boundaries. One of my favorite examples is in Dirty Dancing when Patrick Swayze is dancing with Baby. And he is holding the dancing space. And he's saying, this is your dance space and this is my dance space. And by defining those two spaces, they can dance a beautiful dance together because they know where their space is and they know where the other person's space is. It's not sloppy. It's not weak. It gives them beauty. It gives them flow. It gives them the opportunity to really present them the best of themselves. In that space, by defining that space, the best of themselves can come forward. So in a way, boundaries, when we're talking about personal boundaries, offer us the same opportunities. And learning to set our own healthy boundaries is actually an exercise in personal freedom. It means getting to know ourselves and increasing our self-awareness, what we stand for, what we want, what we like. Now, before I really get into the different ways and the different boundaries that there are for us, I want to stop right there because I want to really make a point of telling you that setting boundaries is actually a declaration of ourselves. It is saying, I deserve to be heard. I deserve rights. I can stand up for those rights. I can express them. I have feelings. I want to be recognized. I have to be the person recognizing the feelings first and foremost before I demand somebody else to do that. Before I ask or set those boundaries to somebody else, I have to know that I am worthy of them. And that is our very first little hiccup in this entire boundary conversation. That's why I'm taking this in such small chunks, because first and foremost, this is me getting in touch with me. What I like, what I don't like, what feels comfortable, what doesn't feel comfortable. Before I can even stand up for myself, I have to know what my own personal preferences are. But even the step before that is feeling I have the right to even know myself, to be able to look at myself and say that I am worthy, I am enough to earn the right to have choices, to have preferences, to have recognize what I love, what I don't love, what I would like, what makes me uncomfortable. What am I asking for? First, I have to be able to even see myself in the mirror. Many people know Louise Hay, who has done so much work with Hay House. She does so much work around healing, and one of Louise's daily exercises, and she advocates for people to do, is to get a mirror and to talk to themselves in the mirror, to look in the eye of the person who is looking back in that mirror and saying, I love you, saying, I like you, you're special to me, you have beautiful eyes, you are a wonderful human being, I love the way you laugh. I mean, it is a conversation of love that we have with ourselves by looking in that mirror. And let me tell you, it is not a comfortable thing to do. When I remember when I first read Louise's book and she talked about sitting in front of the mirror and looking yourself in the eye, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I realized then how difficult it was for me to just see myself, look into my own eyes, let alone to look into my eyes and utter language of love. And of course we want that from other people, but how can we accept it from somebody else if we have difficulty even doing it ourselves? So I did a little YouTube on this. If anybody wants to go to YouTube, I have a YouTube that I did around tapping with looking in the mirror and saying I love you. It's just under my name, Mary Ayers. And it just was a fun thing I did after seeing Louise, because I knew there was some tapping to do about that. We're going to do some tapping about that as well. We're going to start this whole conversation about boundaries with nothing more than looking at ourselves right now, being able to say, I deserve to know myself. It's okay for me to have an appreciation of what I like, about what feels good, what doesn't feel good. I may even begin by having to look at things that have happened where I felt that my boundaries were being overridden. Again, think of it like that neighbor, all of a sudden your neighbor's setting up a party for their child and you don't have a front fence, and they just put their slip and slide without asking permission right on your side of the fence, and next thing you know, all these people are standing at your yard. Imagine that feeling that you get of feeling the invasion of your space, not having been asked permission, and feeling to yourself, do I go out there? Do I say to them, hey, this isn't okay? Do I ruin everybody's party? Will they be mad at me? Because I've got to live next to this person right now. This isn't about you taking an action. This is about you asking yourself, what's the feeling that comes up? I promised you that this would not be an exercise in having to storm the gates and go over and start telling all these people in your life, hey, I've got some boundaries. I listened to this little radio show and I did some tapping, and by gosh, now I have to go out there and I've got to draw the line in the sand for everybody. I've got to let them know what I will or will not accept. That's not what we're doing on this one. Whether or not you get to that place, part 4, part 5, who knows, that's going to be up to you. But I will tell you this, at the end you'll know it's okay for you to have preferences, to have desires, to be able to speak up. You will still make choices about where you choose to do that. But our progress is going to be in the smaller areas. We're just going to build into this. It's a skill, and there's so many parts of us for us to learn. But part 1 is definitely being able to recognize your own voice, your own preferences. So guess what? Now it's up to you to find yourself and say, how does this feel, comfortable or uncomfortable? I've presented an idea, and now you're always kind of evaluating. What's going on in my internal language? Am I saying I can do that or I can't do that? Am I saying, sure, that would work, but I don't know where to begin? That's okay. That's skill-based. Am I saying, oh my gosh, I don't think I would ever feel comfortable doing that, or I think I'd have to get into a conflict? That's how I think of it as setting boundaries. You're in exploration stage right now. Start to just capture some of the thoughts you're having about this idea of setting boundaries. I assume that because you tuned into this radio station, that the topic around setting boundaries was something you could relate to. You know that you've struggled with it. You know that you would like to get better at it. Maybe you haven't had a firm understanding of what it is, and so you tuned in. Well, this is us taking the first steps, and the very first steps is to know myself. What do I believe I can do? Is it right for me to have boundaries? What do I worry about about expressing myself? What are some of the thoughts and concerns that come up? Right now, I just want you to dump them all on a page. Don't worry about it. We don't have any organization about it. What have you heard about boundaries? What do you think of people who have boundaries? What do you think it takes to have boundaries? I want you to capture all those ideas. 5 minutes, not more. Just allow yourself to just dump. Write them down as fast as you can. Don't worry about creating sentences. Just throw it all down. It will make sense to you the more we go along. Now that you've done that, and pause to do that. You could promise yourself you'll do it at the end of this, but you may or may not, and that's okay if you choose not to right now. I'll let you set that preference. Right now, we're going to do some tapping on this whole idea that I have to get to know myself, especially when they've struggled with boundaries. They're not trusting of themselves to know what it is they want. They haven't explored this a great deal. So let's do some tapping around this, being able to listen to your own voice. I want you to really think about, can I do that? Do I feel I have permission to listen to my own voice? Scale it 0 to 10. 0, I have no permission. Doesn't happen for me. I never was taught to how to do that. And 10 being absolutely. I listen to my voice all the time. I could write my preferences down in a heartbeat. 0 to 10, where are you? Now we're just going to feel the comfort around this idea of knowing myself. Again, maybe make another measurement. It feels good, it feels awkward, I'm not sure. Just notice for right now. This is an area we're just going to keep coming back and evaluating. So we're going to start at the karate chop spot. Even though I don't know how to listen to myself, nobody ever taught me. I don't think I'm very good at it. I still choose to accept myself, and I'm open to learning. Even though this whole idea of starting to listen to myself, recognize my preferences, what do I really want, is pretty scary, especially if it means that I'm going to have to set a boundary. I'm going to have to stand up for myself. I still choose to accept all of me, and I choose to be open-minded. Even though I'm scared about setting boundaries, it seemed like a good idea when I thought I'd listen in. But now I'm not so sure. I don't think it's going to be comfortable, and I don't really want to do it anymore. Maybe I'll just stop listening now. But I'm going to take an extra second. I'm going to give myself a chance. She said it would be gentle. She told me that I wouldn't have to do anything, that it wasn't comfortable. So I've decided just to listen. Perhaps I'll learn something new, something useful. Maybe it can be easy. And my first boundary is, I will only do things that feel comfortable to me right now, where I am, with the skill level I have. And go to the eyebrow. This boundary thing is pretty scary. Side of the eye, I'm not sure about it. Under the eye, perhaps I should stop listening now. Under the nose, or I could just give it a chance. On the chin, to learn something new. Collarbone, because I could use a little help when it comes to boundaries. Under the arm, or maybe I could use a lot of help. Top of the head, but I can learn something new. Back at the eyebrow, I'll only do what I can do now. Side of the eye, and my first lesson, under the eye, is just to listen to myself. Under the nose, and I haven't been very good at that. On the chin, at least up till now. Collarbone, I'm not sure what I like. Under the arm, I'm certainly not sure what I'll allow. Top of the head, I know I don't know how to say no. Back at the eyebrow, but I'm ready to learn. Side of the eye, because this is my time. Under the eye, and maybe I can do it gently. Under the nose, just to myself. On the chin, I could practice. Collarbone, just knowing myself. Under the arm, feeling for my preferences. Top of the head, what do I like? Eyebrow, what does feel good? Side of the eye, what don't I like? Under the eye, when do I feel used? Under the nose, what do I resent? On the chin, what makes me angry? Collarbone. Why do I have to answer all these negative questions? Under the arm. Maybe so I can start to recognize. Top of the head. Times when my boundaries were violated. Back at the eyebrow. The people who have violated my boundaries. Side of the eye. So that I can set boundaries. Under the eye. When I'm ready. Under the nose. But I only have to start right now. On the chin, with recognizing those feelings in me. On the collarbone, of what I prefer. Under the arm, I can start there. Top of the head, it's just the beginning. Back at the eyebrow, it's a baby step. Side of the eye, and I'm willing to start. Under the eye, I'm so proud of myself. Under the nose, for saying yes. On the chin, and even though I still have some apprehensions, on the collarbone, I'm willing to learn. Under the arm, I'm keeping an open mind. Top of the head, it's an act of respect and love to myself, and I gladly take it. Now take a breath. And we played with some fun stuff on that. It was just to give ourselves permission to begin. It was really what it is, to start to explore, to be curious with ourselves about what our preferences are. Now I've already given you your action step, and again, that is just nothing more to just recognize what is it that you've been tolerating that you would rather not do? What would you like to see happen instead? Again, this is personal exploration right now. This is just information for you. This isn't about, I'm going to go have to tell somebody about this. I'm going to have to speak up. If you feel comfortable doing that and you wanted to, then by all means, go ahead and do that. But you are under no obligation to do that right now. I want that to be really clear because we're just taking the first steps. What I want you to also know is as we go through this series, I want to hear your voice. Write to me. Let me know what you're struggling with. What are your conflicts about this? Boundaries is a huge issue in our relationships at work, in our love relationships, with our children, with our parents, with our neighbors. Having boundaries is a big part of our lives, and if we want to be able to do it fairly well, and so if this is your first introduction to it and you have been struggling with it, let me know. Write to me. Tell me some different issues that you've had to work with. I'll take some of those examples and maybe we'll work with them and we'll do some tapping. So you can get a hold of me at mary@tapintaaction.com. I am here for you. You let me know. Write in mary@tapintaaction.com. We are on our very first step. I'm very proud of you. I'm proud of us to just be able to take that very first step in accepting ourselves, at looking at ourselves, feeling what feels good to us. We're going to learn so much on this journey, and I'm so glad that you're taking it with me. So, looking forward to it. Want to hear from you. Mary@tapintaaction.com. Until next time, stay brilliant.